everybody, are you thinking about planning a trip to the City of Angels, the home of Hollywood movie-making magic, Los Angeles? Well, if you're like myself and you also love your cars, you probably think that it's all beautiful canyon roads and wide open spaces. But that simply isn't the case. I too have watched a few too many episodes of The Smoking Tire and, well, a lot of movies, so your idea of what the city actually is can become rather distorted. Having now visited it a number of times, there are a couple of things I can say. First off, a rental car is almost essential. Though the place does have a public transport system, it's not particularly well loved or very good. And of course, there's also a whole bunch of places, like the beautiful canyon roads, that you'll certainly want to be driving yourself. But for somewhere quite so car-centric, it isn't the easiest place to drive if you've never done it before. In fact, if you haven't visited the United States at all, it really is going to be a very foreign and often daunting experience. So today, my handy idiot's guide to trying to survive the traffic of Los Angeles, Southern California. I am your idiot for the day. My name is James. I'll be your tour guide. Please enjoy the video after these important messages.
'Cause we're up, California.
At JayEmm Friends, we want to feature new and interesting content, and to do that, we're going to need your help. So if you run an interesting venue, business or restaurant, especially in the UK, email us. We'd love to show more places like this on the channel, and of course, we also love to support the people who support us. Now, back to today's video.
Now, my opening gambit I think is a risky one, but also very important, and it's a simple statement. Americans cannot drive. You really need to remember this, and don't worry, I don't think I've offended any of them by saying that. In fact, if you're watching this and you are American, please hop into the comment section and confirm for me that Americans cannot drive. Everyone I know that can, I speak to and say that, and they say, yeah, no, you're right, Americans really aren't good at this whole driving malarkey. Why is it important to say this? Well, for the very simple reason that after I have explained some of the rules, regulations, hints, tips and tricks of the road around here, you need to remember that the people that live here may not know. So no matter how well prepared you feel you may be, the unexpected is only ever just around the corner. So first off, what car should you rent? Your temptation is going to be to get a Corvette, Mustang, something like that, and honestly, if you haven't done it before, do it. I absolutely love the experience. The cars themselves, particularly from rental companies, aren't always the best, but I do enjoy it. It's part of the whole American experience. For this trip, I've got a Jeep Wrangler, which I've actually really rather enjoyed. The gearbox is rubbish, the engine is weedy, and it's not very well assembled, but these roof panels come off, so when the weather is nice, sunny and warm, as it is today, you can drive around and, oh, that was a scud. Sorry, got distracted there. Anyway, these roof panels come out, so when I'm not talking to you and need it a little quieter, it's a lovely thing to be in. A touch blustery, but for driving around at slow speeds or through the canyons, it's fabulous. For us Europeans, not that we can really criticize anymore, Americans are forever intertwined with massive SUVs, and to be honest with you, there's a very good reason to have one of those around here. The roads are really bad. I mean, terribly paved. This bit is really quite good. I'm in a city called Calabasas, which I think is where the Kardashians come from. It's kind of like Surrey. Very posh area this. There's a lot of money around here, and so the roads generally are quite good, but then you'll come across patches that are absolutely woeful, worse than anything I've encountered really anywhere in Europe. The other thing you find is a lot of the places that you may stay can have a very steep access to them. So if you've got an Airbnb or a hotel with a multi-story car park, it's well worth checking access and clearance, because if you have rented something sporty, like a Corvette for example, well, that wouldn't be able to get into where I've been staying the last week. As we're driving past a Shell station, fuel prices here in California are some of the most expensive in the country. You'll also notice there is a difference in price between paying cash or on a credit or debit card. Presently, for what they term super, which they list as 91 octane, that's our 95, you're paying just under $5 a gallon. That equates to just over £1 a litre depending on the exchange rate, so for Americans it's very expensive, but by our standards it's still on the cheap side. Other states will be a lot less. It should go without saying that some of the stuff I say today will apply to anywhere you drive in the USA. Some of it may be California specific and some of it Los Angeles specific. It is also only a certainty that there are things I'll have got wrong today, so if you happen to be an American or an Angelina in particular and there's something you feel requires correction, please hop into the comment section, do let me know. This car I rented from Alamo. I would recommend them. They're pretty decent, though you have many rental car options when you land in LAX. In case you're wondering, by the way, when you do land, you go outside and walk around a big sort of horseshoe-shaped thing. The signage at the airport is absolutely terrible. It's a 3D that you need to get to find the rental cars. I like Alamo because in the past I did rent a car and a tree fell on it, and they didn't mind. I took out the full damage waiver, and if you're doing any driving over here, take out the damage collision protection waivers. Just do it. It's a madhouse out here. You drive for long enough and something will happen. Guaranteed. Okay, so we're driving down a typical sort of leafy suburban LA street. LA is about 20 miles that way really, but I'm going to call it LA, okay? And this is 2-3 lanes wide at parts. I'm going to join the freeway for a little bit to show you how that works. One of the things about the streets here, the amount of signs, it's really, really quite overwhelming. The other thing is the inconsistency of all of it. So sometimes you'll go to a junction and a sign will be written with words. Other times it will be pictures, sometimes a combination of the two. To give you an example, you can here turn right on a red light. But this gives you many, many different issues. Sometimes you cannot. Do keep an eye out for when you can or cannot. Oh, that's about the 5th Urus that I've spotted as well. As you might imagine, the place is also covered in Mustangs, Chargers, Challengers, all that sort of stuff. So if you love your classic American cars, they're everywhere. Cars and coffee events are pretty well stacked. I went to one last week, which is basically a week before Christmas, and people were still coming out in their old cars. It's Christmas Eve today, and it's like nearly 20 degrees. One of the reasons I do like spending time out here, especially in winter. I may have to make this a regular thing. But the right turn on red thing is actually very, very tricky. If you are at a junction and you can turn right on red and you're a little bit nervous about it, that's one of the scenarios you're going to find the people behind you not being quite so happy. And it will always be very daunting driving in somewhere where road rage might involve someone pulling a piece and popping a cap in your ass. But I must urge, please don't feel pressured. Okay, so here we go. This is a red light. I want to turn right. I'm going to come to a total stop here. Check everywhere around me. Okay, there is traffic coming from the left. It is coming to a stop. Is the Tesla coming to a stop? Because I'm probably going to get a green. No, the Tesla's not stopping. Looked like it was, but he's not. The car on the left is because he wants to turn left. Okay, I am. Yeah, I've driven through a red light. This was totally legal. It actually does make a lot of sense. It means things can sometimes be a little bit easier than you might think. You will eventually get used to it, though. 2 pieces of advice. First off, sometimes you spend so long checking that it's safe to pull out on the red light, you haven't noticed that it's actually gone green. The other thing, of course, is that there's that unknown element I was talking to you about. Something silly will always happen. If you've watched any dash cam video from the USA, you'll know exactly what I mean. A lot of towns and things look exactly like this. This is obviously not a particularly built-up area. I won't take you into central LA today. I don't have the time and there's really no need. Because it's Christmas Eve today, it's really quite quiet, but even so, as you can see, there is traffic. Now, one of the really tricky things about driving here is that they love to switch around what it is that the right lane does. So you may be simply driving along and doing what you think is the correct thing, because in Britain, that's what you do. If you don't need to overtake, you should be in the left-hand lane. However, very often you'll be going along and you'll find that lane now is a right turn only. Keep an eye out for this. There's probably going to be a sign indicating it, but whether it will be in time to be useful or not, I cannot say. However, this is something that happens a lot. The speed limit here is 35. That's pretty common for in town. If you do happen to want to take yourself up into the canyons, and I highly recommend that you do, you may feel like some of the speed limits are a little bit oppressive. You'll find these beautiful open country roads and it'll be a 35 or 45 mile an hour limit. Well, if I'm going to give you one piece of advice about driving in the canyons, and I think it will be my one piece of advice, respect those signs. And that's not me trying to keep you out of trouble with the law. Honestly, you getting in trouble with the police is not my issue. However, I would rather like it if you survived your trip to Los Angeles. And if you haven't driven them before, those rather oppressive speed limits may seem a little bit silly. They're not. Honestly, please do me, and most importantly, yourself a favor. The first time you drive any of these roads, take it really easy. They are incredibly tight, technical. You may be in a car that is unfamiliar to you. If it's something like this, it doesn't have particularly high performance ability, and the penalty for getting things wrong up in the canyons is rather severe. Please, even if you do want to enjoy yourself, scout the road a good couple of times first. Get familiar with it, and you'll see very quickly that I'm not mucking around. You can get lured into these things and spat out very easily. So let's get you back onto the freeway and talk to you a little bit about that. There are many major roads in Los Angeles. The 101 and the 405 are two of the bigger ones, and those are ones I've been driving a lot recently. The 405 is most likely the road you're going to first encounter when you come out of the airport. And truthfully, if you are on the nervous side about driving in Los Angeles, I would highly recommend you stay at a hotel the first night and get your rental car on the second day. You'll be tired, you'll have had a long journey to get here, and the roads around LAX are absolutely mad. Chances are you may arrive in the dark. There are lights, signs, all sorts, all over the place. I've done it a whole bunch of times, and still it is rather daunting. So, we're now on the freeway, and there is only one thing you need to know about driving here. There are no rules, and more importantly, people will not let you out. This is not Britain. If you indicate, it means absolutely nothing. If anything, it's a sign of weakness here. People don't really like doing it. In fact, they don't like obeying any of the rules. In fact, if you are a nervous driver, I'm actually going to recommend something that in Britain I would have you shot for, and that's lane hogging. Pick your lane and stick in it until you feel confident to change. Speed limits here will routinely be ignored. This is a 65 limit, I believe, and people will do up to 80, 85 on occasion without really thinking about it. Note also, HGVs do not have the same speed limits as they do back home. So if you see a big lorry coming up, he's not doing 56. On occasion, he may also be doing 75. And that's rather terrifying. The lorries themselves can also be considerably bigger than back home. On the freeway, it makes no difference at all, but if you're trying to overtake them on a country road, bear that in mind. So I'm now going to move over, and you want to do all your checks as you would at home, mirror signal maneuver, the whole shebang. I'm sure you know how that works. Check for people coming onto the road. So here, the lane to merge is really, really short. I don't know how they've done this, but for a country with so much space, so much room, the merging lanes are really, really narrow. And this is another issue. Like on the smaller streets, if you're on the inside lane of the motorway, the one closest to the exits, very often you'll suddenly find that actually you're just going to be pulled off the road. Now, Reseda Boulevard, here, that works like a junction would at home. You want to come off, you leave the road. But you may go along, and in a mile, suddenly you'll see that this lane is marked as an exit only. So you then need to get over. I would say by default, you almost want to be one lane over if you don't want to be leaving the road soon. On the signs, you'll see the names of the different roads that join with the motorway as you come off them, and that's how Americans tend to do things. You will also get numbered junctions as well, and if you've got your sat-nav going, that will tell you what to do. Bear in mind, some of these exits can come very, very soon after one another. How soon do I mean? Well, sometimes like 50 yards. You'll see two exits almost adjacent to one another, and it's really, really easy to get it wrong. Other confusing things, sometimes the exit will be on the left. The roads like to split all the time as well, so keep an eye out, and the road will split and split again. So you'll go one road this way, one road that way, but then in 50 yards it'll be north and south. This is not exactly unfamiliar to us, but just another thing you do need to be aware of. Again, ultimately, if you're on holiday, hopefully you're not in any sort of a rush, so if you do make a mistake, commit to it, make that maneuver safely, even if it isn't the one you wanted to do. Don't risk anything with a last minute save. Okay, so another thing to know about turning here. You can turn right on a red most of the time, but when you turn on a green, you may also find that pedestrians are in your way. In fact, I can now demonstrate for you. So we're going to turn into this little street here. Notice, I'm on a green, but so are the pedestrians. I did catch myself out with this the first time I came to the USA, where I turned across a junction and a guy was walking across it, and he used some very colourful language. It turns out he was correct because he did have the right of way there. Stop signs. Right. These are really, really, really important to understand. You will see them everywhere because Americans don't know how to use roundabouts, but somehow they've managed to work out how to use stop signs. How do they work? Well, it's actually quite simple. It says stop. Now here it says stop all way. That's important because it means everyone, whatever direction you're approaching this road from, has to follow the same rules. And you must come to a complete stop. It doesn't matter how stupid that may seem. It doesn't matter how good your visibility may be. Oh, these speed humps in town, by the way, can be super aggressive. I don't know how that guy with that Scuderia gets on, because I swear mine would get beached a lot of places around here. Anyway, so the stop signs, you must come to a total and complete stop. And the way you do it is simply in order of who got there first. So you turn up, there's no one there, you can just go. Now here, this is a stop sign without an all way. So it means the traffic coming across here isn't on a stop. Don't even think of coming to a near stop and carrying on. Some of the locals will do it. I believe it's called a California roll. It's a $400 plus fine for that. Here you go, another stop sign all way. Now you see there's cars coming towards me and there's a car to the left. Now I arrive before him, so I go first, then he'll go, then they'll go. And it actually works. They can do this correctly. I don't know how, but they can. Roundabouts you're almost certain not to encounter. In fact, on this trip I think I've seen one, and I believe it was in Nevada, so you're pretty safe. Okay, so here you go. Guy's crossing. He has right of way. He's on a green light, and he's walking like the Yeti in that video. The Zapruder film, whatever. It's not the Zapruder, is it? Patterson Pigs film? All right, let's talk about parking. Now, one of the things about Los Angeles is that because it's so big, you do really have to drive to get to a lot of places. However, the good news is that because it is so car-centric and you have to drive to get to a lot of places, nearly everywhere has parking. If you want to go to an event at the Crypto.com arena, which is where they have ice hockey, basketball and stuff, then you may need to pay quite a bit for it and sometimes book it in advance. But more or less wherever you go, there will be some parking. Sometimes you can park on the street and there'll be signs like back home for what you can do, what the restrictions are. The big thing to note about that is that unlike home, where they paint on the road and tell you whether you can park somewhere or not, here they paint the curbs. You'll see these little red painted sections of curb. That means you cannot park there. I learned that one the hard way as well, so benefit from my learnings. Note here on the side of the road there are some spaces and they're very clearly marked. They have meters attached to them. We don't really do parking meters in Britain, but here they do. You need to feed them with coins. Sometimes they'll do pay by phone, but not often. Keep a stack of quarters on you if you know you're going to need to use these things. They'll tell you on them how much time you've got for the money you've put in, all that jazz. They're pretty sensible, easy to use. Parking lots can be interesting. Here is a sample one, very small in a little strip mall. Note, there will be restrictions on each individual space, so this one's 30-minute parking. Some of them are for specific shops as well. That's not really a big surprise. Some places do not allow you to reverse into a space. They'll say no reversing into the stalls. That's what they mean. Yeah, some places will actually fine you for reversing into a space. Note, a lot of big multi-stories have got things set up so that you have to drive forwards into the space. It's almost impossible to do it any other way. Clearly, they've just given up on expecting people to learn how to drive. As you might imagine, this thing can cause issues when you come to leave said space, so just exercise caution. Handily, it's now a legal requirement for cars out here to have a reversing camera. It actually has been for a while, so use that and also your common sense when exiting said space. A lot of parking is free, but not all of it. If you are going into Los Angeles itself, into the city or Hollywood, Burbank, anywhere like that, expect to pay. Though to locals it's expensive compared with London prices, actually it's not that bad. So as an example, yesterday I was in downtown LA and it's 20 to 30 bucks for the nicer spaces to park in for a whole day. It's not that bad. If you need to refuel out here, most pumps will have a credit card machine so you can pay at the pump, and unlike a few years ago, now British cards actually seem to work most of the time. If they don't want to, and you can tell that they won't want to if they ask you for a zip code, then you have to prepay. Go and see the cashier. People can come at you from any direction at any time, and honestly, they pay no attention to the signals that you give them. I genuinely believe that LA's traffic problems could be partially solved if people were just polite like in Britain. If people let you out when you asked, it would flow so much better, honestly. This stuff is horrible because you've really got to put your foot down to join the road. They will not let you out. They will not let you merge. It just will not happen. One time in 1,000 maybe, but that's it. Do not rely upon the kindness of others. And unfortunately, this has created the weird system that they have here. Because nobody lets anybody out, they don't really even bother asking anymore. They just force their way in. Something I haven't seen on the route I've done today, but you will encounter the carpool lane. It's got a white diamond to signify it, also called the HOV lane, high occupancy vehicle. Basically, if you've got 2 people or more in the car, or it's a clean air vehicle, so a Tesla, something like that, you can use it. Truthfully, it doesn't work at all. the idea is it should allow you to progress a little bit smoother, but I did about 50 miles in one yesterday and made not a bit of difference. One funny little thing, actually, I do quite enjoy about being out here. They write stuff on the road in a different order to us, so we just put stuff down as you would expect it to if you wrote it on a piece of paper. But here, they write it in the order that you read it. And as a European, it's very, very entertaining, because the first time I came out to America, I would see on the road this sort of like zingped, and I was like, what zingped? I was like, oh, there's obviously some sort of big Asian supermarket about that's advertising by writing their name on the road. Now, what it actually meant was there's a pedestrian crossing coming up. You get used to it. You'll also have to get used to the traffic. It is Christmas Eve today. There you go. There's LA traffic. And this is what I mean. Indicated, but just moved over anyway. Now I'm flashing my light to let them out like a Brit. They don't know what to do with that. They don't know. They've no idea. No idea. They're lost. Like a little puppy. Now, hopefully, you've enjoyed today's video, and trust me, this is just a little taste of what it's like to drive out here. I've no doubt I've missed a whole host of different things, and if I have, hop into the comment section down below and tell us all about them. But before I go, one really, really serious and important piece of advice. If you pay attention to anything, make it this. If you do happen to get pulled over by the police, pull over. When they tell you, it's going to be fairly easy to work that out. They're not subtle with these things. Don't get out the car. Roll down all the windows. Keep your hands up here where they can see them, and answer the officer's questions in a nice, professional, polite manner. Don't wisecrack. Don't make jokes. Be friendly. Be amenable. Hopefully, if you've got a British accent, they'll be diffused pretty immediately because they'll know you don't have a gun, and therefore the chances of you being accidentally gunned down in cold blood will be fairly small. You may think I'm exaggerating the risk of interacting with the police out here. I can assure you I'm not. I've known more than enough people have encounters with them, and it's gone not so well. Their reputation for hostility is sadly rather well earned. But please, don't let that put you off. Though driving around here can be a little bit crazy, and the people doubly so, I do still have a real soft spot for Los Angeles. It's a wonderful place full of amazing people. Angelinos can be, well, anything really. Mad, bad, good. But you know what, honestly, please don't let that put you off. Los Angeles is a place filled with some really incredible stuff to do. And yeah, that guy playing music was the motorbike. They love cars out here too. If you're a petrol head, come out here, get to a Cars and Coffee. There will be one basically every week of the year. The only reason I'm missing one tomorrow is that it's Christmas Day and I'll be on an aeroplane heading home. So, there we go. Hope you've enjoyed this little video. Thanks to you all for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.